"I'll never forgive them. They stole my spotlight, and I'll carry that grudge till the day I die." Those weren't just bitter words. They were Ken Curtis's final confession about the Hollywood colleagues he claimed had betrayed him. When Curtis first walked onto the Gunsmoke set, he came with big dreams and a heart full of hope. But instead of respect, he got cold stares and whispered insults that cut deep. Even though Ken was friendly and eager to fit in, his castmates treated him like an outsider. Behind the scenes, the gossip was ruthless. People murmured that he didn't belong there, that he was just another replaceable face. To make it worse, the producer himself reportedly paid him the lowest salary on the entire cast. Imagine showing up every day, smiling for the camera, giving your all to a role, while knowing you were being underpaid and disrespected. Yet no matter how heavy the pain, Ken Curtis kept up the act, laughing, singing, and breathing life into Festus Hagen, the loyal and quirky deputy who became a fan favorite. But inside, Curtis was breaking. That friendly grin hid years of frustration and rage boiling beneath the surface, a storm that would eventually explode. After Gunsmoke ended, Curtis swore he'd never speak to his old castmates again, not a single word. But what could have turned such a kind, hard-working man into someone filled with so much resentment? Who pushed him to this point? Who made him feel like an unwanted shadow on his own show? Let's dig into it. Here are the 5 people Ken Curtis reportedly despised most, starting with number 1, John Mantley, the man who saw Curtis as nothing more than a background player. John Mantley, Gunsmoke's producer, had a reputation that echoed through Hollywood: strict, stingy with budgets, and unwilling to share creative control. He clashed often with actors who wanted more freedom to shape their characters, and Curtis was no exception. When Curtis joined Gunsmoke in 1964 as Festus Hagen, the scruffy but soft-hearted deputy, he instantly became a fan favorite. His rough charm and soulful singing gave the show heart. Episodes like Wishbone in 1966 showed just how talented he was, making people laugh one moment and tear up the next. At first, Ken was grateful to Mantley. The producer had given him scripts that let Festus shine, and for a while, their working relationship seemed strong. Dodge City was alive, the show was booming, and Curtis finally felt seen. But that spotlight faded fast. Mantley, while giving Curtis moments to shine, never let him step into true stardom. Curtis started realizing that no matter how beloved Festus became, he'd never be on the same level as stars like James Arness or Amanda Blake. He fought hard, begging for deeper storylines, more meaningful scenes, and equal recognition. But Mantley refused, focusing instead on keeping the show's balance. For a multi-talented artist like Curtis, who had already worked under legends like John Ford, this felt like a cage, and that's when the resentment started to burn hotter than ever. The audience adored Festus, but even their love couldn't erase Ken Curtis's growing pain. He still felt like nothing more than a sidekick in John Mantley's grand design. That tension finally exploded in 1987 when CBS announced Gunsmoke, Return to Dodge, a nostalgic reunion of the legendary cast. Curtis was thrilled at first, imagining Festus returning as the same loyal yet witty soul that fans cherished. But the excitement didn't last long. When the script landed on his desk, it hit him like a slap. Mantley and the production team had completely rewritten Jim Burns's original script, slicing down Festus's role until he was barely there, turning the beloved deputy into a shadow of his old self beside Matt Dillon. After 13 years of pouring his heart and soul into that character, Curtis felt crushed and betrayed. To him, this wasn't just bad writing. It was a personal insult to everything Gunsmoke had stood for. Things got even uglier once money came into play. Mantley offered Curtis a salary so low, it felt like a joke. It was significantly less than what Amanda Blake, Miss Kitty, was being paid. Then Mantley reportedly told TV Guide that Curtis had demanded double Blake's pay, painting him as greedy. That public jab humiliated Curtis, who had worked tirelessly for over a decade, not only as Festus, but also as a successful touring musician. He couldn't believe he was being treated like some washed-up side act after all those years of loyalty and sweat. Furious, Curtis got Mantley on the phone, and it wasn't pretty. His voice thundered through the receiver as he shouted, "Don't ever call me again!" That one line severed their relationship completely. But the fury ran deeper than any single argument about scripts or paychecks. To Curtis, Mantley came to represent everything wrong with Hollywood: cold, greedy, and willing to crush passion and artistry for a few extra dollars. Curtis confided in friends that he saw Mantley as an opportunist, a man exploiting Gunsmoke's legacy without truly valuing the people who brought it to life. Every time Curtis thought back on their clashes, his anger reignited. It wasn't just about pride, it was about principle. In another heated call, Curtis reportedly told Mantley, "You can keep your legacy, but don't ever think I'll bow to you." That was the end of it. When Return to Dodge finally aired, Curtis refused to take part, walking away from the project for good. Festus was replaced by actress Fran Ryan in a smaller supporting role, a move that shocked and disappointed fans everywhere. Even though the movie pulled strong ratings, viewers couldn't ignore the hole Curtis left behind. His absence was more than noticeable. It was painful. In interviews afterward, Curtis never had a kind word to say about Mantley, and there's no evidence the two ever reconciled. Mantley fired back publicly, labeling Curtis difficult, fanning the flames of their long-running feud. To Curtis, though, this wasn't just bitterness. It was about protecting the heart of his character. Festus wasn't just a role, he was a piece of Curtis's soul, molded from his grit, humor, and music. Sitting in his California home years later, Curtis would sometimes reflect on Gunsmoke with a mix of pride and sorrow, proud of what he created, but forever haunted by how it ended. When Gunsmoke, the last Apache hit production in 1990, Ken Curtis once again said no, refusing to return as long as John Mantley was still calling the shots. That decision wasn't about ego, it was about pride. Curtis would rather protect his dignity than bow to the man he believed had trampled on their shared legacy. The wound ran too deep. Curtis passed away the following year, in 1991, still holding that grudge close to his heart. Mantley, who lived until 2000, never apologized publicly. Not even a hint of regret or reconciliation crossed his lips. But Mantley wasn't the only one who stirred Curtis's anger. There was someone else, someone whose charm and confidence both enchanted and infuriated him. Amanda Blake, the fiery redhead who played Miss Kitty Russell, became another storm in Curtis's Hollywood life. What started as admiration slowly twisted into heartbreak, and then resentment. Amanda Blake wasn't just a star, she was Dodge City's heartbeat. Her elegant poise, sultry voice, and that signature smirk made her the undisputed queen of Gunsmoke. Fans adored her, and the crew respected her power on set. To many, she was untouchable, and that's exactly what drew Curtis in. Coming from a background of music and Western films, he was instantly captivated by her bold spirit and sharp wit. During late-night shoots, Curtis would linger near her, tossing playful jokes in Festus's thick drawl, hoping to catch her laugh. He wasn't just acting, he was flirting. Their chemistry on screen was undeniable. Behind the scenes at the Long Branch Saloon set, Curtis nursed a quiet crush, convinced that maybe, just maybe, Blake felt something too. But that fantasy shattered one night after filming, when Curtis finally got the courage to ask her out. The crew had gathered at a small bar near the set. The mood was light, and he thought the timing was perfect. With his heart pounding, he leaned over and asked her to dinner. Amanda gave a polite, practiced smile and said softly, "I see you as a fun brother. We should keep things professional." That sentence cut through him like a knife. Curtis managed to laugh it off, pretending he wasn't hurt, but inside he was crushed. That one rejection flipped a switch. What was once admiration turned into a lingering bitterness he couldn't shake. After that night, Curtis started seeing things differently. He noticed how Blake always got the more meaningful scenes, the romantic glances with James Arness, the emotional dialogues, the moments that made fans swoon. Meanwhile, Festus was often used for laughs, the goofy sidekick who made the audience smile but rarely got depth. It burned him up inside. At fan events, the imbalance was even clearer. Once, Curtis overheard a fan gushing, "Miss Kitty is the queen of Gunsmoke," while referring to him as the funny one. That moment stung like salt in a wound. Every compliment Blake received became a reminder of how invisible he felt. The rejection, the constant overshadowing, it all began to pile up inside him. What once felt playful now cut like a blade. Amanda Blake's teasing remarks about Festus, jokes that once made Curtis laugh, suddenly sounded like mockery to him. In one particular scene, Blake casually suggested he keep Festus's voice more consistent, and that struck a nerve. To Curtis, it felt like she was questioning his craft, as if a newcomer was lecturing a seasoned performer who'd been breathing life into that role for over a decade. Maybe Blake meant no harm, but through the lens of rejection and buried hurt, Curtis saw every word as another reminder of how little respect he thought she had for him. He often told close friends, "She may be Miss Kitty to the world, but to me, she's just a symbol of what I'll never have." Those words summed up his pain perfectly, a mix of heartbreak, envy, and pride. That bitterness boiled over in 1987 when both Curtis and Blake were invited to reunite for Gunsmoke, Return to Dodge. Curtis, still wounded but determined to honor his beloved Festus, initially said yes. But then came the final blow. He found out that Blake was being paid nearly double his salary, and that the revised script gave her more spotlight while shrinking Festus's part. Curtis felt humiliated. It wasn't just about the paycheck, it was about dignity. Once again, he was being sidelined while others were lifted higher. Furious, he picked up the phone and exploded at producer John Mantley, shouting, "Don't ever call me again!" Sure, part of that anger was aimed at Mantley, but deep down, it was also about Blake. He couldn't stand the idea of standing in her shadow one more time. From that day on, Curtis shut the door for good. He refused to attend any Gunsmoke reunions or fan events where Blake would appear. Whenever he was asked about the show in interviews, he spoke warmly about James Arness and Milburn Stone, but never once mentioned Amanda Blake. His silence said everything. It wasn't public venom. It was something colder and sadder. The silence of someone who'd been deeply hurt and never healed from it. When Amanda Blake passed away in 1989, Curtis didn't attend her memorial. He simply sent a short message of condolence through mutual friends, polite, distant, and final. 2 years later, Curtis himself passed away, still carrying that quiet resentment in his heart. For him, Blake wasn't just the woman who had rejected him. She had come to represent something much bigger. She was the symbol of a Hollywood that always seemed unfair, a place where charm and fame could outshine true dedication and raw talent. But Curtis's list of rivalries didn't end there. There was someone else, another giant from the Gunsmoke family, who went from being his closest confidant to his most bitter rival. Number 3, Milburn Stone, the man behind the iconic Doc Adams. When Ken Curtis joined Gunsmoke in 1962 as Festus Hagen, he instantly bonded with Milburn Stone. Stone, with his gruff but caring presence, treated Curtis like a younger brother. They laughed together after long filming days, swapping stories about fishing trips, women, and the wild Hollywood years. Curtis, who'd worked under legendary director John Ford, respected Stone's authenticity. He wasn't like the typical Hollywood type. Stone was genuine, grounded, and wise. Late at night, after the cameras stopped rolling, the two would sit under the studio lights, reminiscing about life before fame. For Curtis, those moments meant everything. He thought he'd finally found a real friend in a place full of fake smiles and hidden agendas. But as time went on, cracks began to show in that brotherly bond, and once again, friendship would slowly turn into rivalry. When Ken Curtis stepped into Gunsmoke in 1962, the show was already a powerhouse, 7 years strong. Milburn Stone, as Doc Adams, was one of its untouchable pillars, respected, beloved, and deeply rooted in Dodge City's identity. Curtis, who came in as the quirky, lovable Festus Hagen, brought fresh humor and warmth to the show. But deep down, he always felt boxed in by the scripts. Festus's best lines, the witty, sharp ones that showed Curtis's real talent, were often chopped down to make more space for Doc and Matt Dillon's emotional moments. That didn't sit right with him. Then came the day Curtis overheard something that stung hard. Stone, chatting casually with the director, said, "Festus doesn't need many lines. He just needs to be funny." It was meant as a simple creative note, but to Curtis, it landed like a slap in the face. He felt reduced to a side clown, not an artist, not a storyteller, just comic relief. From that moment, a quiet resentment began to simmer beneath his trademark grin. Curtis started pushing back, wanting to show a deeper side of Festus, a character with real emotions, pain, and grit. In one production meeting, he pitched an episode idea where Festus would confront a dark memory from his past. But Stone, the seasoned veteran, gently waved it off, saying, "Audiences love Festus because he makes them laugh. Don't complicate things." That line hit Curtis right in the gut. To him, it sounded like Stone was saying Festus, and by extension, Curtis, wasn't capable of depth. The tension only grew. Their personalities clashed like thunder. Stone, known for being strict and sometimes blunt, didn't hold back when Curtis showed up late or got distracted by his music gigs. During one particularly tense moment on set, Stone snapped, "Ken, if you want to be a star, focus on Gunsmoke instead of wandering off to sing." Curtis forced a smile in front of the crew, but inside, he was furious. "Who does he think he is, lecturing me?" he thought. As time went on, that frustration aided him. Fans adored Festus, sure, but Curtis noticed how the spotlight never quite reached him the same way it did others. At fan conventions, people rushed to Stone first, asking about Doc's serious scenes or heartfelt advice to Dylan. Meanwhile, Curtis got called the funny guy next to Doc, a comment that felt like a punch to the chest every single time. It wasn't that Stone meant to outshine him. It was that Hollywood always seemed to favor the serious over the silly, and Curtis couldn't stand it. By 1971, the tension had quietly turned into distance. When Stone was hospitalized after a heart attack, Curtis tried to bridge the gap. He even brought along his fishing rod, hoping to cheer him up and rekindle their old camaraderie. But the warmth wasn't there anymore. Between polite smiles and small talk, Curtis felt something had changed forever. Then came the rumor that broke him completely. Curtis heard whispers that Stone had told producers, "Festus can never replace Doc in the audience's heart." Maybe it wasn't true. Maybe it was just gossip. But it was enough to poison whatever was left of their friendship. Whether he admitted it or not, that comment burned deep, leaving Curtis bitter and convinced that even his closest allies saw him as second best. After the tension with Milburn Stone grew too heavy to ignore, Ken Curtis quietly started keeping his distance. He stopped joining the cast for after-hours drinks and laughter, and the brotherly bond they once shared faded into silence. When Gunsmoke finally wrapped in 1975, Curtis did something deeply symbolic. He bought Doc Adams's old desk from the set. It wasn't just a keepsake of friendship, it was his silent declaration, "I'm part of this legacy too." Yet that gesture carried sadness. By then, the closeness between him and Stone had become a tangled mix of respect, regret, and quiet disappointment. When Milburn Stone passed away in 1980, Curtis didn't attend the public memorial. Maybe it was pride, maybe pain, or maybe both. He didn't hate Stone. He just couldn't bring himself to stand in a room that reminded him of how friendship and fame had turned into something bittersweet. Curtis's resentment wasn't aimed solely at one man. It was toward the system that pitted them against each other. In Hollywood, someone always had to shine brighter, and someone else had to stay in the shadows. That truth ate at him. Even within the legendary Gunsmoke family, he couldn't escape the feeling of being second best. And if things were tense with Stone, they were explosive with the show's biggest name, James Arness. Number 4 on Curtis's secret list, James Arness, jealousy living in a giant's shadow. In 1987, when CBS revived the show for Gunsmoke, returned to Dodge, the studio buzzed with excitement. It was a grand reunion, the perfect chance to bring back the magic that made Gunsmoke iconic. Curtis was thrilled at first. He saw it as a way to honor Festus, the loyal, funny, poetic deputy who'd become a fan favorite, standing once again alongside Arness's mighty Marshal Matt Dillon and Amanda Blake's elegant Miss Kitty. But the excitement didn't last long. When the script arrived, it crushed him. Festus, the heart and humor of Dodge City, was pushed aside like an afterthought. His once clever lines were reduced to a few dull quips, stripped of all the charm that made him beloved. Then came the ultimate insult, the paycheck. The offer was embarrassingly low. Feeling betrayed, Curtis snapped, calling producer John Mantley and shouting, "Don't ever call me again," before walking away from the entire project. The tension behind the scenes was palpable. Even James Arness, the show's towering star, wasn't completely happy with the script. He thought the writing watered down Matt Dillon's heroism and gave too much focus to new characters. But the difference was clear. Arness still held the power. His role, his paycheck, his reputation, none of it was in danger. For Curtis, though, it was the opposite. He felt disposable, like his years of dedication didn't matter anymore. For 13 long years, Curtis had poured his heart, sweat, and soul into Festus Hagen, making him more than a comic relief. He made him real. But the glory? That always went to Arness. Every applause, every headline, every award, it all landed on the Marshal's shoulders. Curtis's humor, warmth, and charm made audiences love him. But behind the curtain, he still felt invisible. His frustration wasn't just about scripts or money. It was about the years of watching Arnis get first pick on everything. More screen time, more publicity, and more respect from directors. Curtis, who had once worked under John Ford and proved himself as both a skilled actor and a gifted singer, couldn't help but compare. Why did Hollywood keep him in the background? Why couldn't Festus, the mountain-voiced deputy with a heart of gold, ever stand beside Dylan as an equal? Whenever Ken Curtis delivered one of Festus's sharp or funny lines, the laughter in the studio often seemed to echo louder, but not for him. It was always for James Arnis. Every time Curtis tried to pull focus toward Festus, Arnis, intentionally or not, dominated the camera frame like a true leading man. It became impossible for Curtis to ignore. Some crew members later recalled him muttering under his breath, "If I can't be recognized, at least I won't give it to anyone else." Before long, rumors started swirling across the Gunsmoke set. People whispered that Curtis had refused to join Return to Dodge because he couldn't stomach the idea of Arnis still standing at the center, while Festus had been reduced to a side act. Colleagues even remembered catching him sitting alone after filming, eyes distant, cigarette in hand, like a man wrestling with the painful truth that no matter how hard he worked, he would always be living in someone else's shadow. In one rare interview, Curtis confessed something heartbreaking. "I used to think I was part of Gunsmoke, but sometimes being part isn't enough to be recognized." That single line said it all: the pride, the pain, and the years of silent resentment that had built up inside him. But Curtis's story of bitterness didn't stop with Arnis. There was another man whose very name stirred old frustrations, a wound that had never quite healed. Number 5, Dennis Weaver, the deputy who came before him, and the ghost Curtis could never escape. When Curtis took on the role of Festus Hagen, it wasn't just another acting job. It was stepping into the shadow of a legend. Dennis Weaver had already made television history as Chester Good, Marshall Dillon's limping, loyal right-hand man. Chester's gentle heart, humor, and signature drawl had made him a fan favorite for nearly a decade. So when Weaver left and Curtis arrived, the comparisons were immediate and brutal. Even though Curtis brought his own flair, that mountain twang, the wild beard, and a perfect mix of grit and heart, the audience and producers couldn't stop talking about Chester. They still adored him. Curtis tried to be gracious. During the transition episode Prairie Wolfer in 1964, where Chester and Festus actually shared scenes, he even shook Weaver's hand and joked between takes. But deep down, it stung. He could feel the unspoken question hanging over him. Can Festus ever replace Chester? That pressure never went away. Curtis would overhear crew members whispering, "Chester would have done it this way," or "Weaver had a more natural charm." One day during a script meeting, an assistant director offhandedly said, "Ken, try making Festus more like Chester. The audience likes that familiarity." That one comment cut deep. Curtis's pride as an actor, and as a man who had trained under John Ford, couldn't take it. He didn't want to copy anyone. He wanted Festus to stand on his own. The bitterness only deepened as the years passed. Dennis Weaver's legacy didn't fade, it grew. At fan events, people still brought up Chester, asking endless questions about him, even after Weaver had moved on to other shows like Kentucky Jones and McCloud. One time, a fan yelled out during a signing, "Chester is the best deputy ever." Curtis smiled politely, pretending not to care, but inside, he was burning. That kind of praise, so freely given to another man, made him feel invisible all over again. Sometimes, after filming wrapped, Ken Curtis would sit alone in his trailer, quietly listening to his old cowboy songs, a soft reminder to himself that he was more than just a sidekick. He wasn't some newcomer trying to fill another man's boots. He was Ken Curtis, singer, actor, and the soul behind Festus Hagen. Yet the resentment inside him kept growing, not through outbursts or angry interviews, but through small, cutting moments that piled up over the years. At one backstage cast party, Dennis Weaver showed up as a guest, cheerful, confident, and immediately the center of attention. The whole crew lit up as Weaver laughed and told stories from his days as Chester Good. Everyone listened, smiling and clapping, caught in nostalgia. But in the corner of the room, Curtis stood quietly with a drink in his hand, watching. Then a producer raised his glass and said, "Dennis, you laid the foundation for this sidekick role." That line hit Curtis like a gut punch. He tightened his grip on the glass, jaw clenched, thinking, I've been here nearly 10 years, and yet they still only remember Weaver. That moment burned into him. Things got even worse when a rumor started spreading through Hollywood. Whispers that Dennis Weaver had once said Festus lacked depth compared to Chester. Whether it was true or not didn't matter. Curtis believed it. During a 1965 shoot, when a director casually suggested he make Festus a bit more loyal to Dylan, like Chester was, Curtis snapped. Slamming his script down, he shouted, "I am not Dennis Weaver, and Festus is not Chester." That outburst shocked the set, but it showed just how deep the wound had become. From then on, Curtis made it clear he wanted nothing to do with comparisons. As the years went by, he distanced himself from any memory of Weaver. When Gunsmoke ended in 1975, Curtis refused to attend reunions or events where Weaver would appear. In interviews, when fans brought up Chester, he changed the subject, focusing instead on his work. Episodes like Wishbone, where Festus's charm and humor shined brightest. His resentment wasn't expressed through public insults or angry words. It came through silence. A cold, protective silence meant to guard what little pride he had left. When Dennis Weaver was later honored in Gunsmoke retrospectives, Curtis would quietly walk away or change the channel, unwilling to listen to yet another tribute to the man who had unknowingly made him feel small. And those, at last, were the 5 people Ken Curtis held the deepest grudges against, all tied to the very show that had made him a household name. Gunsmoke had given him fame, fortune, and a character loved by millions. But it had also given him wounds that never healed. But what became of Ken Curtis after Gunsmoke ended? What tragedies and trials shaped the man behind Festus Hagen and fueled those lifelong resentments? Let's take a look. Ken Curtis, born Curtis Wayne Gates on July 2, 1916, in Lamar, Colorado, came from humble but proud roots. His father, Dan Gates, served as the sheriff of Bent County, a real-life lawman, while his mother, Nellie Sneed Gates, cooked for the prisoners in the county jail. It was a tough but honest upbringing, filled with discipline, music, and the dusty beauty of the American West. From a young age, Curtis showed both grit and grace. He played the clarinet, sang at local gatherings, and even captained his high school football team. That balance between ruggedness and creativity defined him, a cowboy with an artist's heart. After finishing school, he went on to study medicine in Colorado Springs, but it didn't take long for him to realize that his true calling wasn't in a hospital. It was on a stage. In 1938, chasing his dream, Curtis packed his bags and moved to Los Angeles to pursue music. His voice, smooth yet powerful, quickly caught attention. Just a few years later, in 1941, he landed a major break, joining the Tommy Dorsey Orchestra as the lead singer, replacing none other than Frank Sinatra. That gig launched him into the national spotlight and set the tone for a long, impressive musical career. Soon after, he joined the legendary country group, the Sons of the Pioneers, one of America's most beloved Western harmony bands. With them, Curtis helped create timeless hits like Room Full of Roses and Ghost Riders in the Sky, songs that cemented his legacy in American music. Before Festus ever graced television screens, Ken Curtis was already a star, a man who could sing, act, and charm an audience like few others. By the mid-1940s, Ken Curtis began expanding his horizons, stepping beyond music and into film. He got his start in Columbia Pictures' Western-style musicals, where his smooth voice and natural acting quickly caught Hollywood's attention. His charm and talent made him a favorite among some of the biggest names of the era. Before long, he was working side by side with the legends, director John Ford and superstar John Wayne, in unforgettable classics like The Searchers, The Quiet Man, The Horse Soldiers, The Alamo, and How the West Was Won. Curtis didn't just stick to the grand westerns either. He had range. He even dipped into low-budget horror, producing cult favorites such as The Killer Shrews and The Giant Gila Monster. Those projects proved he wasn't afraid to take risks and explore every corner of the entertainment world. Then came the role that would define him forever, Festus Hagen on Gunsmoke. When he first appeared in 1962, Festus was just a guest character. But by 1964, he had officially become Dodge City's rough-around-the-edges yet loyal deputy. Over 13 years and 304 episodes, Curtis turned Festus into a television icon, a funny, loyal, and heartfelt character that audiences loved dearly. His mountain drawl, rugged look, and quick wit made him unforgettable, earning him a place in the hearts of millions of viewers. But Gunsmoke wasn't his only claim to fame. Curtis also appeared in other top television hits like Have Gun, Will Travel, Perry Mason, Ripcord, and Death Valley Days. His ability to slip effortlessly between music, comedy, and serious Western drama proved just how talented and versatile he truly was. He wasn't just a sidekick or singer, he was a true star, a man who embodied the spirit of the American West on and off screen. In 1981, Curtis's decades of hard work were officially recognized when he was inducted into the Western Performers Hall of Fame at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum in Oklahoma City. It was a proud moment, an acknowledgement of everything he'd given to the genre and the culture that had defined him. Behind the scenes, Curtis kept his personal life mostly private, though it had its share of milestones and heartbreaks. He was married 3 times. His first marriage, to actress Lorraine Page in 1943, lasted until 1950, a quiet separation during the early hustle of his music and film career. In 1952, he married Barbara Ford, daughter of the great John Ford himself. That union lasted 12 years, overlapping with his most successful Hollywood period and expanding his connections within the film world, even though the marriage eventually ended in 1964. His third marriage, however, was the one that lasted. In 1966, Curtis married Tori Connolly, and the two built a happy, steady life together until his passing. Though Curtis never had children of his own, he embraced Tori's 2 kids with open arms, stepping into the role of a devoted stepfather with genuine warmth. Family gatherings, local events, and holidays were where Curtis truly shined, not as a star, but as a man who loved deeply and gave generously. Ken Curtis passed away on April 28, 1991, in Fresno, California. His ashes were scattered over the open Colorado plains where he'd grown up, a fitting farewell for a man whose soul belonged to the West. Tori continued to live in their home in Clovis, California, until her death in 1997. Today, a memorial statue of Festus Hagen proudly stands in Clovis, forever honoring the legacy of the man who brought laughter and life to Dodge City. Ken Curtis's story is one of passion, pride, and perseverance. From small-town Colorado to the bright lights of Hollywood, he carved out a career that spanned music, film, and television, leaving behind a legacy that's still celebrated by fans to this day. He was more than Festus. He was a pioneer of Western entertainment, a man whose work captured the humor, grit, and heart of America's frontier spirit. Yet behind that legacy lay complex emotions, grudges, and rivalries that shaped his journey. His quiet jealousy of James Arness, the giant star who always stood in the spotlight. The tension with Milburn Stone, whose steady presence sometimes made him feel small. The betrayal he felt from John Mantley, the producer who undervalued his talent. The heartbreak of Amanda Blake, whose rejection left scars that never fully healed. And the unspoken rivalry with Dennis Weaver, the man whose ghost of Chester Goode seemed to haunt him for years. These conflicts weren't just gossip. They revealed the heart of a man who cared deeply, felt deeply, and demanded to be seen. They were the reflections of an artist fighting for recognition in an industry that often rewarded charm over loyalty and politics over passion. So, what do you think? Were Ken Curtis's grudges justified, or were they just the price of chasing greatness in Hollywood's golden age? Let's hear your thoughts in the comments below. And hey, if you enjoyed uncovering the hidden drama behind this Western legend, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more untold Hollywood stories, behind-the-scenes scandals, and fascinating deep dives into the lives of classic stars. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.